Alright, welcome back. So in this video we're going to talk about while loops, and we'll use Python for this. Python's super easy programming language to use, and we're just going to kind of walk you through making a loop and kind of talk about the ins and outs and the negatives that could happen as you make these loops. So we're going to use a while loop, and we're just going to create a number, and we're going to give that number, we're going to assign it 8. Okay, and then we're going to say while that num is less than 10, we're going to say print less than 8, or less than 10. Okay, so this is very common, right? We're just going to kind of run a loop, and we want it to print something over and over and over until it reaches a certain point, and then it's going to stop printing. So, a couple things with the loops. One, if you need to have an initialization of your variable that you're using to enter that loop. So, for example, we need to say that num is going to be equal to a value. And then when we say while that variable is less than a certain number, it's going to enter the loop. Now, if I run this right now, it's going to have a problem, and I'll explain later what will happen. But let's say that our number here is 11 instead. Okay, so if we run this, well, nothing happens because it is not less than 10, and so it won't enter the loop. So you want to make sure that the while loop that you use, if you want it to enter the loop, make sure that that value, fits your logic statement here. Okay, so we're going to make this 8. And so while num is less than 10, which in this case is going to be 8, it's going to enter the loop. Now we're going to create an infinite loop here on purpose because I want to use this as an example. And so we're going to go ahead and run this, and you'll see the less than 10, and it's going to continue to go, and it'll do until I tell it to stop or clear the value here. And that's because we have no way inside of our loop, we only have one line here, we have no way to change the value of num. Once it enters that loop, I didn't include a way to change that. Now I could ask a question down here, I could have an input, I could also do something like this and just say num is equal to num plus 1. So every time it goes through the loop, it'll print less than 10, and then it's going to add 1 to num, so then num will become 9. Then it will go back through the loop, it'll print less than 10, and it will print another one and make it 10, and then eventually the loop will end, and that'll be the end of our while loop. So you really want to make sure that it is important that you have a way to change your variable that you use to enter the loop. You have to have a way to change it inside the loop, whether that's an input statement, whether that is incrementing that value, but you need to have a way to end that loop. Otherwise, your loop is going to run infinitely. And so now if I run this, it's just going to do 8, it'll do less than 10, add 1 more, it'll come through again, it'll say less than 10, add 1 more, and then it will no longer be less than 10. So if I did this correctly, it should just do 2 of these. And so let's run this. And there you go, less than 10, less than 10. Okay? And if we wanted to, I could add another print statement here and just print out num, and you could kind of see how those work. Okay, like that. And so we have less than 10, and now it's 8 that first time through. We add 1 to it, it prints it again, less than 10, and now it's 9. And because we said it's less than 10, it is 10 here when it ends this loop, but it's not less than 10. So it exits the loop and moves on. And obviously this is just a short little bit of code to discuss these, but it's really, really important in your loops that you have you initialize it so that it has a number or has a value to enter that. You could use text for this as well, which we can talk about in another video and assign that, but you make sure that you give this a value, assign it something, and then obviously that it fits the logic statement, and you have a way to change it within here. Okay? If you don't, you're going to have an infinite loop and it will run forever. Okay? All right, hopefully this helps you with your coding, and good luck.